Blog Talk Radio. Good day to all. Thank you for tuning in to the Uvisualeyes show, where you can learn to create the life you prefer. This is your host, energy healer, and life transformation coach, Michelle Kraft. Welcome. First, I want to say thank you to all of you who tune in every week. Your excitement and enthusiasm is such a blessing. If you missed last show, you can listen from the archives and listen at your leisure at any time. Remember to listen to the Uvisualeyes show on July 3rd, 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, with Sarah McLean, author of Soul Centered, Transform Your Life in 8 Weeks with Meditation. Fabrizio Mancini, often known as Dr. Fab, is an internationally acclaimed bilingual speaker, author, educator, philanthropist, and president of Parker University in Dallas, Texas. His childhood dreams of serving humanity were ignited in Texas, where he pursued a pre-medicine studies at the University of Dallas in preparation to become a doctor. He later enrolled at Parker University as his passion for life was redefined to empower individuals to take responsibility for their own health and well-being. And in 1999, Dr. Mancini became one of the youngest presidents of a college or university when he was chosen to lead the institution. Since that time, and while leading Parker University through historic educational and professional achievements, Dr. Mancini has developed his life's passion through a variety of arenas. His enthusiasm for life is contagious and has earned him numerous recognitions that include Heroes for Humanity, Humanitarian of the Year, CEO of the Year, and many others. As highly sought-after guest of radio and television program, he inspires thousands of individuals each year with his innovative messages of success, service, health, and wellness. He is the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul and The Well-Adjusted Soul, and has authored both 4 Steps for Living and A Fabulous Life. And today, he's here to talk about his newest release with Hay House, The Power of Self-Healing. Welcome to the Uvisualeyes show, Dr. Mancini.
Thank you, Michelle. It's so great to be here with you.
I'm very excited. I finished reading your book, actually, just the last part yesterday on a train from Heilbronn, Germany to Dresden, and I couldn't put it down. I had enough information because it's just astoundingly packed with so much that I could have done the show, but I was hooked. I was hooked into the book.
You know, that's one of the feedbacks that I get is the fact that it has so much information and content rich that it becomes a reference guide instead of just a simple reading. But at the same time, as you could read, it has a lot of practicality because I'm a very practical individual anyways, and I notice sometimes when I digest a lot of information, if there's not a lot of or an easy way for me to apply it, I just tend to dismiss it. But we all know that it's in the action steps that we transform our lives, not necessarily in the context of the information that we gain.
Right, and that's actually what it's becoming for me because, like you said, kind of like a health Bible, a healing Bible, you know. Set it next to my cookbooks downstairs. So, Dr. Fab, a lot of people usually want to know why you wrote, they probably want to know why you wrote The Power of Self-Healing. I mean, for you, why was that?
I spent the last 25 years watching individuals frustrated with their health issues and also living in a paradigm in which our healthcare systems and our healthcare way of thinking and allopathic medicine way of thinking is not really addressing nor correcting the health problems that we suffer with today. So, like in the United States, we have 2 out of 5 Americans that are actually using what they call complementary alternative medicine, a different approach that is more natural, more conservative. And I've seen so many patients in my own practice just heal from things that they were told they would never heal. And when I wrote this book, the first thought of it was, boy, I would like to send a message to the world, individuals to, number one, rethink the paradigm by which they're living their lives, especially when it comes to their health. And number two, to empower them to recognize that the answer is never going to come from an outside source. It's not going to come from your insurance. It's not going to come from a governmental agency. It's not going to come from your company. It's going to come from you choosing to be healthy and choosing better options than the ones you're currently choosing. And that was really my intention behind writing it. But then I had something that happened to me about 10 years ago, and that's the fact that I lost my father due to a surgery that was done that was not the right surgery, and it created complications, and then it led them into lung cancer that he died. And the lung cancer came from lifestyle choices that my father smoked when he was younger. And even though the last 30 years of his life he didn't smoke, it caught up with him, and that's ultimately what killed him at 63 years old. So I wanted to send a message to people to, number one, recognize that the choices that you're making today, when you're 19, 20, 25, you think that you can do anything, right? You can abuse your body to no end, but little do we know that those choices at that age is having consequences with us later on. But I also wanted to speak to the baby boomers, the people that are 55 and above, that are looking for ways to be healthier because they are just running out of options, and they're looking at their parents and saying, I don't want to end up like my parent. I'm living longer now, and I want to live a good quality of life. And all of that put together is what really created the desire for me to put this message out to the world.
Well, that included answering my second question, because I was going to talk about the meaning, as far as your book, of the word power in the title. And you're talking about taking control for our own health and responsibilities. Is that right?
Yes, because, I have interviewed a lot of millionaires and even some billionaires, and you ask them one question. And you ask them, what is it that you most treasure right now in your life when you have everything material that you can possibly want? And they typically will refer to their health. And some of them have sacrificed their health climbing the ladder of success, and some of them are enjoying good health and they invest a lot on their health. But the problem is, once you lose your health, a lot of times it's very hard to regain if the stages of it are very advanced. So the power component of it is the fact that many of us, Stephen Covey, which wrote 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, said, begin with the end in mind. It's one of his principles for being successful. And if the begin with the end in mind is that you're going to be in your 80s or 90s a healthy human being, because, we're all destined to live up to 120 years old. That's what the latest scientific evidence is showing us. And, of course, many of us are dying at age 87 or 90 is the actual mortality rate. But the reality is that if we want to begin with the end in mind, and if we want to put health as our number one priority, what will we do different knowing that? And that's really what the empowerment comes, is sharing personal stories of individuals that are sharing how they heal naturally and conservatively when they were told that they will never heal. And number two, the evidence, the latest scientific evidence that supports why that works. And that's really how I put together this book.
Well, I have to say to my listeners, when you read this book, there is so many remarkable, miraculous stories of healing, and they always give me goosebumps because I'm an advocate of self-healing. I have been for several last years. And my mom, she had the same issues with her health, and she actually just died last year of multiple illnesses, not just one. And she really approached it with such trust in only the medical field, Western medicine, and it has its place. Surely, but she was up to like 13, 15 pills a day, and it wasn't really doing any good for her, you know. And it's quite challenging today to navigate what we should eat, what physical activities we should do and or participate in, and how to feel better emotionally and spiritually. And in your book, before you introduce the 21-day self-healing program, which is the gift at the end, you address these topics in 3 parts, you know, before we get there. So would you please share those 3 parts that you address?
Well, in the observations that I've had over the last 25 years, I noticed that many of us, if you ask an average person, give me 2 or 3 things that you can do today that will make you healthier. And they typically will tell you, well, I know I can probably eat better. I need to lay off some of these fast foods, and I need to perhaps not eat so much fried foods, or perhaps I need to eat more vegetables or more fruits, you know, the typical answers. And then some of them will say, I need to get off my chair more often. I need to be able to exercise, so maybe have a walk on a daily basis, or maybe join a gym or something like that. But what I realized is that the physical component of what we need to do is not one that most people don't know what to do. So the question then began for me, so why is it that people are not doing it? If you know what it is that can make you healthier, right, and you know that that's going to make you feel better, it's going to give you more energy, it's going to give you a sense of happiness because you're feeling good, you know, why wouldn't you do it? And that's when I discovered that our emotions are the ones that are keeping us from actually being healthy, because we have emotions that are destructive emotions that sabotage healing, and we have emotions that promote healing. So I discovered the 3 emotions that primarily, and I talk about it in the book, that are the most self-healing emotions, and they are gratitude, forgiveness, and love. And then I discover also that there are emotions that are also sabotaging the self-healing, which are primarily worry, fear, and anxiety. And if we can replace those negative emotions with more positive emotions, we now have a better emotional state that may want to keep us healthy. I'll give you a perfect example of that. So let's say it's New Year's, right? And everybody's making their New Year's resolutions, and boy, I'm going to work out more often, and I'm going to eat healthier, and I'm going to not eat so many pizzas in a week and all this fast food. So then you're doing great in February. By March, let's say that you have a relationship and you get into a fight with your loved one and your partner. Or perhaps you're in a job that your boss is not appreciating you, or perhaps you made some mistakes, or you're very stressed, or perhaps you're in a sales position that you're not making your quota and you're probably going to get fired. That emotional distress then puts us into a mindset that sabotages the physical things that we're doing healthy for ourselves. So then we begin to crave the bad foods. Why? Because the bad foods give us a sense of nourishment that we feel better when we eat them, even though it's not healthy for us. And then we stop going to the gym because now I need to think differently, and you start worrying more about everything that's going into your life instead of just living your life. And then I discovered that once you pass the emotional component, then I talk about the spiritual component because I didn't want to necessarily refer to as religion, even though that we have so many scientific evidence, like you saw in the book, that shows that when you believe in something, you heal faster than when you don't believe in something. But what I wanted to show people is that for me, spirituality is a sense of meaning for what is my purpose in being here. What is a sense of awareness that there's something bigger than myself out there that I need to be in contact with. And even if it is just a social aspect of the fact that we share this planet with other people, and all of those people have a story to tell and things that they can share with us and enrich our lives with culture, with traditions, etc., I wanted individuals to know that nature is there to support us, and we shouldn't be destroying nature. We should be embracing nature. And if you haven't really done that, and as much as you could, then I'll give you examples of things that you can do and stories that people tell you what they did to embrace it. So the value, in my opinion, why this book is getting such incredible attention is that it takes you away from just the physical component of the exercise and the nutrition, but takes you now to what is keeping you from doing those things, which is the emotional and the spiritual. And I think that people are resonating with that very, very much.
I think you're correct. It's kind of like a whole food approach, the whole approach, you're not just addressing physical, emotional, spiritual, you're addressing all of them. And that's the three parts: physical self-healing, emotional self-healing, and then the spiritual self-healing. And it cracked me up, though, that first story you were telling just after you get started there about I think I should let you tell it. One morning after class, he said to his professor, with all these diseases, I don't understand how anyone can survive. The teacher replied, when you study how the body works, you'll wonder how anyone gets sick. I love that.
I love that story because, when people are healthy, it's interesting. Like here in the United States, we have every so often a flu that they give it a different name. And I have two children, 12 and 15, and it's interesting because half of the class will be sick with the flu and half of the class is not sick. So you ask yourself, okay, if the flu virus is hanging around that classroom, why is it that some kids get sick and some kids don't? And the answer is because some kids have an immune system, which is our natural defense system, that is able to fight that virus and not get you sick. Well, I love that little story because, honestly, the more I learn about the human body, the more I realize it is so crazy to think that we get sick the way we do because our bodies are so designed to be healthy and to actually self-heal, and tapping into that is what I wanted everyone to feel. I wanted you to feel that you have such an incredible power within your physical body, your emotional body, and your spiritual body that you can then deal with these challenges in life and these viruses and these conditions that we're hearing all the time, and especially the chronic ones, the one that the arthritis, the diabetes, the hypertensions, those are the ones that are really making us really suffer as a society because that's 80% of the diseases out there that we're battling are mostly chronic in nature, and unfortunately, we have found that pharmaceuticals are not the best option for those. Pharmaceuticals and surgeries are wonderful for what I call urgent care. And believe me, I worked in 2 hospitals as a volunteer. I know the life-saving procedures that we have today, and I embrace them and I celebrate them. But I'm talking to the people that are suffering from things that they're tired of taking the same pill, or they take a pill for one thing and then they have to take another one to counteract the side effects of that one, and it becomes a roller coaster of in a maze of trying to do all these things that are not really getting you the outcome that you want, which is I want to be healthy again.
Right, and I think we've come to believe strongly that we can't self-heal. We've become overly dependent, and like you said, putting the responsibility on the outside. And a long time ago, when medication really started being used, I think people, it's a miracle, it's a miracle drug, and they want to believe in that. And personally, I basically take maybe Benadryl once in a while and Tylenol. That's really all I take. And I actually have to say something before we go any further. When I got through, almost done with the first part on physical self-healing, it's my nemesis. It's the last one on my list. I've accomplished a lot of these goals, and I'm up and down on that. But as I was finishing it, and I want you to take this in the light that it's presented, yes. I dropped the book and said, "Fine," and I got I got my shoes out and I took a walk. I took a 40-minute walk, and it was like this confirmation. It was just something at a certain point in the book that it finally hit me, and I said, "Yes, you're right. You're right, Dr. Mancini." And I put the book down and I went for a walk.
But it's interesting, Michelle, because I've heard from so many readers that have emailed me and follow me on Facebook, et cetera, that had shared with me similar stories. And for some of them, like I had a lady that said to me, "I took your book and I took it to the grocery store. And I went ahead and went through the grocery where I went and began to buy the things that you were telling us, like, when I discussed the importance of the foods that heal. The reason that I did that is because many of us sometimes hear about how eating something may be healthy, right? But at the same time, what we don't know sometimes is how that food is preventing things from showing up in our lives. So, like, for instance, when, I talk about an apple, and, most of us know that an apple is a very good thing to eat. But a lot of times, the challenge is that most people don't realize that apples have other components that are really wonderful, like they're very high in fiber. And so that means that allows us to go to the restroom properly. One of the biggest challenges people have today is that they're not going to the restroom on a regular basis. And that is then building up within our bodies the toxicities that are making us sick. And it's natural for us to go 2 or 3 times a day to the bathroom, but most of us are not. Most of the time when I would ask patients of mine, 1 time, sometimes a day, sometimes once every 2 days. The other one is we hear all the time that people that are young are having strokes. And most people don't realize that having an apple prevents strokes from happening and also prevents heart attacks. I met today, I was working out this morning, and I met a very young man, 59 years old, very healthy. He goes to work out at least 5 times a week. Well, just recently had a heart attack, and his cardiovascular surgeon even told him, you would have come here 2 weeks ago, I would have known what to tell you any different, So he was asking me, he said, well, what would you recommend? And I said, well, if I was you, what I would do is that I would start eating the kind of foods that I know will prevent, heart attacks from showing up, and that will build my cardiovascular system. But also I would do the type of exercises that can also strengthen my cardiovascular system and do a combination of that. But then I said, look, you also have acupuncture that can be a wonderful support system for you. You also have chiropractic that can also keep the nervous system working. Why not incorporate some of those things in your life and see if those things will help you prevent things from happening? So I love that part because a lot of people have been writing me about how much they have enjoyed that now they're looking at an apple or broccoli or an avocado very differently than they did once.
Definitely. I mean, I eat at least 3 apples a day, sometimes 4. My husband the same thing, and I made the list from your book of foods, and we went and purchased the rest of the list because I was pleased to find that I had I was already eating about 3/4 of what you had on your list. So I was very excited about that. There wasn't a drastic difference, just a little bit of adjustment. And I know it's hard for people sometimes to make those adjustments, but, my husband grabs like 2-3 apples, couple bananas, whatever, and throws them in his bag in addition to, his lunch. And it's really not that difficult to do that, especially apples go everywhere.
Well, and I was glad to see that many of the fast food stores now are actually adding some of those components. One of the things that I do is that I make smoothies, especially in the evenings, like if I've had a long day, and I put spinach and broccoli and apples and bananas and different things, kale and nuts, and I blend them all up, and I make myself a shake of all these vegetables. And, the natural servings is about 6 or 7 servings of fruit and vegetables a day. What you should have, well, in one smoothie, you can actually put all that together if you don't feel like you have time for a salad. And it takes me probably about 2 minutes to put it together, but it's wonderful and it's nourishing, and I sleep so good because I know that my body's getting the nutrients that it needed, but I don't have an excuse to say, well, I don't have time to make a meal, so I'm going to go around over here to the fast foods place and try to just get me something to time me over, when making a shake, or a smoothie can take you, 2 to 3 minutes, and you have all the essentials of what you need. And not only that, it's very filling too.
Right. And I do a lot of juicing myself.
Juicing is wonderful.
Yeah, I love it. Every morning I have my juice, and it's 2 apples and 1/4 pineapple and just spinach, like you said, and avocado, and after I put that, I throw the avocado in the blender with the juice, and it's really good. I really enjoy it, and the energy is amazing.
And Michelle, it's not only necessarily what we can add to our diets and our nutrition, but also it's identifying the things that are really hurting us. And you notice in the book I took a whole segment on sugar, because we know that sugar is one of the biggest detriments to our health because it creates inflammation. It hurts our cardiovascular system, and it's one of the biggest causes for diabetes. And I even created, a sugar assessment for people to take to find out how much sugar am I taking. Am I taking too much sugar? And what are some of the things that are tips and how you can cut back on your sugar. And let me tell you, just cutting back on the sugar has created tremendous amount of healing. I mean, I had a lady that emailed me and said, Dr. Mancini, I've been suffering with arthritis. And as soon as I saw that chapter, I realized that I was consuming, 3 sodas a day, which has 16 teaspoons of sugar each soda, whether it's whatever soda that you like. And she started cutting out her, her sodas. She used to drink coffee, and she used to put 4 or 5 tablespoons of sugar into her coffee. I mean, it was just one thing after the other. And she says nobody had ever made a mention to me and said, are you just taking too much sugar? And she said it's made all the difference in bringing down the inflammation in her arthritis. And I was just saying, my goodness, something that simple of an awareness can make such a difference. So it's not necessarily adding more things to your diet and your nutrition, but also just making sure that you're reducing or cutting out the things that are really hurting you as far as what you're eating right now.
It was a great reminder for me because I had been staying away from sugar for many, many months, and then I don't know what it is about. We were living in Paris, and we went to France or to Germany, and there's the sugar. My sugar level went back up, and I didn't even connect the dots because this is what I want to bring up because I had a lot of questions in this area about cold sores and canker sores. And I have struggled with them off and on, but they had gone away for, a really long time. I don't get them. And then just when I was reading your book, the divine presence of putting something in my hand right when I need it is amazing.
Always.
But I was reading that, and it said, and this is a quote from the book, ever wondered why you get cold sores or canker sores after eating candy or sweets? The reason is the sugar. And it's a immune suppressant?
Yes, of course, yeah. It just lowers our immune system, our immune response. So it's just like, alcohol is a perfect example. Alcohol in moderation is fine, but when you're drinking alcohol, it turns into sugar in the body. And a lot of times people don't realize, especially young people, that they're consuming far more than the average normal person would because they're young, they can recover a lot faster. My goodness, after I turn 40, for me to have a couple of drinks, it takes me a day or so to recover. When I was younger, it didn't even faze me, because your body is so strong and all that. But the idea of this book is to recognize what are those self-healing agents that allow us to keep our bodies young for a long time. Like I turned 47 this year, and my high school friends, you should see the comments they make to me. I cannot believe you look so young. You look better than you looked in high school, and all of this. And I get that even when I do a lot of appearances on TV, and people say, "But you look so young." And and because I'm president of a very prestigious university, most of the time, many of my executive vice presidents and all that, of course, they're a lot older than me. And when we go to a place, to a meeting, most of the time the individuals are going to them saying, "Oh, hi, Dr. Mancini, I want to introduce myself." And then they think the young guy over here must be the assistant or somebody that is working for them, And
right.
But it's such a compliment for me. It's such a compliment for me because I keep saying to myself, okay, if I'm going to live to be 120, I've already written my 100-year birthday speech. Because I was with a friend of mine that wrote a wonderful book called The Passion Test, and it talks about one of the things that you want to do in life is write your 100-year birthday speech, and what would you say when you say it, and then you live your life accordingly to what it is that you want to be able to say 100 years from now, or when you turn to be 100. And every time I read that, because I read it on a daily basis, to remind myself, I think of myself, boy, if I can just continue to recognize that my body is constantly regenerating. You see, most people, because they haven't studied physiology and and embryology and anatomy, they don't realize that our cells are constantly changing. The bones that we have right now, like I just did my x-rays. I went to a chiropractor that, it was a new chiropractor for me, and he did all my x-rays again, and I compared them to my x-rays when I was in high school, and they're much better. My curvatures are better, my bones are healthier, my discs are healthier, and most people degenerate as they get older, and I'm regenerating because all the bone cells are new. You see, your body's constantly building new cells. Your stomach is new. Your lungs are new. Your muscle, your skin regenerates all the time. So if you want to look and feel younger, you have to just apply some of these concepts. And if that's your mindset and you realize I'm getting younger instead of older, because I think a lot of times we talk ourselves into being older. Like right. I'm getting older. I can't believe I turned 50. I hear that all the time. And I feel like I'm getting younger every year in my spirit, in my physical body, but I also work at it. I make better choices, and I've listened to what it is that works for people, and I watch, and those are the kind of things that I was trying to share with others so they can do the same for themselves.
Exactly. And, you were talking about your bones, which brings me to a section in the book. You talk about the new chiropractic, and I believe a lot of people don't understand what chiropractic is. Yeah. And they believe a lot of gossip about it, such as being stretched and twisted beyond their body's capacity. So I think it would be a good idea to explain to our listeners exactly I'm an advocate of it, but for our listeners so that we can dispel some of those myths.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have had people that are, when I was in practice full-time, I met some medical doctors, and I invited them to become patients. And these doctors did not believe in chiropractic at all because they were, number one, they were not taught that in school, in medical school, and number two, they just was not aware of it, and they didn't know what it was, etc. But it worked, So to me, what I share with individuals is this. The best way to understand chiropractic is that, the human body is designed in a way that the most important organs are protected by a hard shell. So our brain, which is the most important organ, and our spinal cord is protected by the cranium, which is the bone outside of your brain, and is protected by the spinal column, which are the bones that protect your spinal cord. And the reason that that's important is because that energetic system, we call the nervous system, is the one that is communicating with the body and every cell in the body on a constant level. So the brain is like a computer that tells the body what to do, and the body tells the brain what it needs, and back and forth we have what we call reflexes that keeps us going in order to respond to the external stresses of our lives, such as environment, such as emotions, such as, right now there's a lot of stress because of the economic situation around the world. We have a lot of distress because there's a lot of unemployment, especially in the United States. We're almost at 10% unemployment, which is unheard of. People are really stressed. And the way that I explain it is that a chiropractor, we are trained primarily to make sure that we are keeping that nervous system away from interferences. So anything that can keep that nervous system from interference is not going to allow you to be able to be as healthy as you're meant to be. So we have patients from the moment they're born. There's hospitals that now have chiropractors adjusting babies newborn because they recognize the importance of it. And we have patients that are being adjusted in their 90s. Because they want to maintain a healthy nervous system. And the analogy that I give is the fact that if your brain of your nervous system is like a cell tower, and everybody has a cell phone, and sometimes when you have a cell phone you have bad reception and you hear all that noise like or you have a drop call. Well, it's the same thing. Your organ will be the cell phone, and your brain will be like the cell tower. And any interference to that nervous system causes that communication to drop. So that means, I give you a perfect example, an ulcer. An ulcer is too much acidity in the stomach. So if you eat a food that your body has to build a lot of acid in the stomach in order to break the food down, in order to digest the food properly, which is a natural response, it's fine. But once you digest the food, the stomach sends a message to the brain, okay, I'm done digesting the food, cut down the acid production and give me some more alkaline, which is the basis, which then soothes up the stomach again. If that message is dropped and the stomach does not recognize or is not able to tell the brain to stop the acid production, the stomach is producing acid, and that would turn into an ulcer. And so something that simple, because, sometimes we have chiropractic patients that say, you cure my ulcer. And I say, well, how can that be? And I say, well, because the cause of the ulcer was not being caused by anything other than the stomach was not communicating with the brain well, and you were producing too much acid that was not necessary. Sometimes I have patients tell me, now I can conceive, and we have studies that we have done in chiropractic that we have helped a lot of women conceive babies when they were told that they were not able to conceive, but they couldn't find anything wrong with them. They would just tell them, you can't conceive. Well, that was because somehow the uterus was not communicating with the brain, was not setting up the stage for the eggs to be able to be produced, and then the sperm to be able to come in and then be able to create that embryo. So the communication system is really important, and that's really what we do in chiropractic, is just allow the individual to remove interferences of the nervous system so they can live the healthy lives that they were meant to live.
Exactly, and I have a great story with chiropractics, and I'm a great advocate after this. I was having some terrible problems, scared me. My left side of my face was numb, my left arm was numb down to my pinky, and you could see my face drooping, and I was like, and it was a lot of pain, and of course, I went to the hospital. I was very concerned that I was having a stroke, or whatever. Of course, they admitted me and hooked me up to everything, did all their tests, and then they come in, well, we can't really find anything, but we're going to send a heart specialist in. So the heart specialist come in, and of course, he reviewed everything, but he started to try to tell me that I had a hole in my heart, maybe a little hole, and that we might have to do surgery. And of course, wait a minute. I was like, okay, I basically told him to get out of my room, and I left the hospital, and I went back to what I know, which I'm an advocate of alternative healing methods greatly, and I went back to my books, and I said, I need to go to the chiropractor. That's what, everything in me tells me that's what I need to do. So I went to the chiropractor, and I saw that after they had done their examinations and an initial, I'm not sure what they call it, but anyway, designed what they needed to do for me. They told me what was going on was that my neck from college, bending down, looking and working, was pinching a nerve, and I needed several treatments to get myself back in alignment. I had 6 treatments, and it was gone. The adjustment had worked, and that's the only thing it was. And a lot of people would trust the doctor and hear, that said you have a heart condition, and I was like, okay, that if they told me that they couldn't find anything, that was my suspicion that there was something else going on. But the chiropractic is what healed the problem, and it was just the nerve. It was compressing. The neck was compressing on a nerve.
Michelle, I'll tell you a funny story and thank you for sharing that. My first book was Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul, and Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen have been friends of mine for many years, and they've asked me if I would put this book together, that they wanted to spread the message of the benefits of chiropractic, because both of them have been impacted greatly by chiropractic. And so what I did is I sent an email out to patients of chiropractic just to say, would you share your stories with us and see if they'll make the book. I'm putting this book together, and we got about 6,000 stories in about 2 months or 3 months. And Jack Canfield calls me and says, Fab, you send me all these miracles, people claiming that chiropractic helped their sight, that chiropractic helped them walk again, and chiropractic, and all these miracles. And he said, no, I need some funny stories too. I need some political stories. I need something that is different, because we don't want just all miracles. And the interesting thing that really that what it allowed me to appreciate is that the body is the only thing that heals. Chiropractic is just a facilitator of that healer. It's something that allows the body to heal naturally, and removing that interference, what we call a chiropractic adjustment, is just a way that the body can then be able to have the energy supply to do what it's meant to do, because our bodies were born to heal. They were not born to be sick. They were born to be healthy. And we have forgotten that as a society, because most people that we talk to are sick. And I think it's because we're living in the wrong paradigm, so, and then you get commercials all the time that tell you, oh, if you take this pill, you'll feel better. If you take that, you'll feel better, instead of really teaching you to ask the question, what is the cause of my disease? What is the cause of my problem, rather than just managing the symptoms of my problem.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. I've been saying that many times, and I'm an advocate of looking at all sides of this, because before we run out of time, I want to jump into the second and third part, the emotional self-healing and the spiritual, so that we can squeeze that in before we run out of time. So part two is emotional self-healing.
Yeah, and the emotional, the one thing that I want individuals to understand is that emotions turn into chemistry, and I wrote about it to show people that emotions is a physical effect. It's not just an emotional effect. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm excited. All of that turns into chemistries in our bodies, and if we pay attention, that's what allows us to either heal or not heal. And then I talk a little bit about, I singled out depression because I'm just amazed. Right now, the latest statistics that just came out in the United States is that over 25% of our children under the age of 16 are in antidepressants, and over 50% of our adults are in antidepressants. And I'm saying to myself, I know these are difficult times, but I also believe that difficult times is also a way that can create creativity, that can spark creativity, that can motivate you to think differently, out of the box, then get out of whatever routine you're in to get you into a better tomorrow. But if you become depressed, then that becomes like a victim mentality, that I'm the victim and there's no hope for me. And depression, I believe, is just a sign of the person has lost hope.
Right.
It's like if you have hope, you're not going to get depressed, because hey, there's another day tomorrow. And I talk about, making every day like a brand new day, and then thinking about all the positive things that I can accomplish today. And, yesterday was a day that I can't go back to. I can't change what happened yesterday, but I can definitely learn from it and do something different today. And I talk a little bit about some of the things that, you can do against depression or reducing the stress in our bodies. But I want to talk a little bit about the trust factor. I talk a little bit about how one of the things that I've learned so much is that there are three components that really help a person self-heal, and that was all based on trust. The trust that you have on the provider that you selected, regardless of their specialty. I want you to understand that you trust in that provider to know that, that's the best person for me. Whether they're a medical doctor, whether they're an osteopath, a homeopath, it doesn't matter. It's just that's the best doctor for me. That's the best provider for me. Number two is to trust in the treatment that you selected. Whatever that treatment is, in the early days when we had cancer patients, we had many stories that patients said they healed their cancer through changing their nutritional diet. Some went into microbiotic diet. Some did other things. Other people talk about biofeedback, how they visualize the cancer cells shrinking every day, and that's what did it. I mean, there's many options, but whatever treatment you decide, whether it's chemotherapy or whatever, then you want to make sure that you trust in that wholeheartedly. And then the last one, which is the trust in your body ability to heal itself. See, most people, if you don't believe that the body can heal, your chances of healing has decreased already. But if you trust that your body is designed to heal, and that you have the right provider and the right treatment and you have the right abilities in the body to heal, that's where I found that the people really have that big jump in healing regardless of their condition. And that's a real good one that I hope people will read and enjoy, because and I give you examples of that when I talk about it. And then the last one is primarily the spirituality, and it's interesting. This was a chapter that, as you know, many healthcare providers that have written books, they try not to go too much into this area because they don't want to be confused with religion. They don't want to be criticized. And I don't know what you thought, but for me, it was very important to bring the awareness that there is a spirit, a healing spirit inside of us that we need to nurture. And I talk about the difference between the religion and I talk about the difference between spirituality. And then I bring about some research, like there's one that I really enjoy that talk about how people who regularly attend church have 25% reduction in mortality. That is, they live a lot longer, that people that are not churchgoers. And it doesn't matter what church you go to or what religion. It just shows you that there's plenty of evidence to show that believing in something is far more important than not believing. If you want to truly heal, And then I talk about prayer and all the research that is on prayer and cases where patients were claiming that what healed them was the prayers of their loved ones. And studies that were done that people were prayed on before surgery and then after surgery, and which ones healed and which ones didn't heal. But the real important thing of this chapter is I want individuals to tap into their inner voice, their intuition. I want them to try to learn that, there's a lot more to this thing we call the spirit side of ourselves than we give credit to. And all I want individuals is to hopefully get hungry enough to want to search it for themselves and then discover it for their own selves.
Definitely, and meditation has been a part of my every day, and I
it's
can't
wonderful
say enough for that.
You know what I love about meditation is that it forces us to tune out the external distractions, and it forces us to tune in our internal forces, and as you know, you're a strong meditator, and so am I, and you know that you get those insights, right? You get those incredible insights like, oh my goodness, this is revolutionary. And that's what sometimes we've lost touch to, listening to our inner voice. And one of the examples that I give my patients is that I say to them, it's like we're so distracted by the external noise that we can't hear our internal noise, but all the answers come from inside out. And if you just bother to just tune down some of those external noises and listen to the internal voices that are telling you what it is that you need to do or what you can do, then you will be much healthier if you did that,
Definitely. Like you said, most of my wonderful creative insights come just as I'm finishing my meditation. I have that idea or that thing that I've been trying to figure out how to approach, and it just goes on and on. I mean, for me, relaxation, the anxiety level just plummeted after just doing it for probably about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I suddenly noticed that I was not feeling all that anxiety. The fear that I would walk around with because of worry was so much less and manageable, I mean, we're going to live with stress like you were talking about earlier. Things are going on, but now I can manage it so much better.
That's really the lesson here is how we respond to that stress is what makes a difference whether we are healthy or not. If we responded in a constructive, positive way, and we build up our inner mechanism so that way it doesn't take us with it, then we're going to be fine. But if we're so weak inside that we keep changing and trying to find short-term solutions or coping mechanisms, I call them, just to get us through the day, then we're going to live a life that's very frustrating and a lot of anxiety.
Right. And the coping mechanisms is what that we've learned from people who don't know what they're doing is what's hurting us a lot.
And it's actually what I call, your survival kit. It's like you go into survival mode, and it's all about just surviving this next moment, and just making it through the day. Like, I have patients that have actually confessed to me, Dr. Mancini, I can't even think about tomorrow. I'm just trying to barely make it through today. I have this problem. I have that problem. And I said, listen, you mentioned to me everything that's going wrong in your life, but you haven't mentioned one thing that's going right. What you focus on is what you attract more into your life. That's the law of attraction. If you keep focusing on the things that are negative in your life, don't expect to attract positive things, because you're going to attract the same things you're focusing on. So would you do me a favor tonight when you go home? Would you please write down everything in your life that you're grateful for? Everyone in your life that has nurtured you, that has supported you, that loves you, if you have a job, the fact that you can have a paycheck to pay your bills and have a roof over your head and have a meal in your table, all of those things are the things you need to focus on. And the more you focus on those good things, the more good things that you attract into your life.
Exactly. Well said. So with about 8 minutes left, let's jump real quick, and it's time to tell our listeners a little bit about the last part, 21 Days to Self-Healing Program. What's that about?
Many people have asked me why I chose 21 days. As you know, there's many programs out there that are, a week, 7 days, 14 days. Well, the research shows that it takes at least 21 days to build a habit. And what I wanted this book is to actually become a habit for someone. I know that 21 days is not the only 21 days, but it's the 21 days that will give you enough time to build a habit. And a habit is when you make a conscious decision but without thinking about it, meaning that you replace the meal for something healthier, but now you are just craving that and eating that naturally without even thinking about it, but you have to really kind of force yourself. Or, like initially when we start working out, right, and we're sore those first couple of days and we're building lactic acid in our muscles and we're like, oh, I don't know if I can go back next time. I'm so sore. That's not a good feeling. And then you go through it again, and then you go through it again. And by the second week, boy, you're feeling more energetic. Your muscle soreness goes away. And you're like, oh, I like the way I'm feeling. I'm already getting a little tighter. I like the whole experience. Well, that's truly what the 21 days is all about, is just getting a little bit uncomfortable to have a long-term comfortable after the 21 days. And the nice thing that I did is that I took the first 7 days, and I kind of shared not only wonderful things about what you can eat, and as you know, I give you a menu for breakfast, lunch, snack, and even a dinner, just as suggestions. You don't have to follow those recipes, but at least if you can follow the type of foods that I'm suggesting, which is primarily lean proteins, such as your fish, your chicken, your beef that is really lean if possible, your turkey, those kind of things. But also, just recognizing that you can get creative with your foods, especially your vegetables and your fruits, and try to incorporate more of that into your life. And then I also talk a little bit about, some of this. I give you like a self-healing thought for the day, because one of the things that I want to do is begin to implant in your mind a mindset that is healthy. Like, for instance, for day one, the self-healing thought is, nourishing your body is so simple, so easy. All you need to do is give it its proper food, water, and supplements. Nourish your body daily with these things, and stay aware of how its nourishment gives you back to you in all that you need to live fully. I talk about not only nutrition, I talk about supplements and what are some of the supplements. I talk a little bit about the workouts. What are some of the workouts I want you to do? I want you to strengthen, but I also want you to do cardiovascular work. And then on the second 7 days, I go a little bit more with the same thing, which is your nutrition, your workouts, your mindset, but I go a little bit more into your mind. And I start showing you that there's a lot of alternative complementary professions out there that can help you, and you need to explore those. I believe greatly in massage. I believe massage is a very healing technique out there. I introduced to you some that you probably haven't heard of, acupuncture, chiropractic. I talk a little bit about how you can change the patterns that you've been living like reframing the negatives into positives, instead of being a pessimist, be an optimist, because there's a lot of research that shows you're going to heal a lot faster when you're more positive. And also begin to change the way you talk to yourself, begin to do positive affirmations, begin to project the kind of life and body that you want. And then you have a lot more of the supplements that is going to really support your immune system and your brain function. So that way, like right now, one of the biggest scares that we have in statistics is what we call Alzheimer's and dementia. And Alzheimer's and dementia is now being seen young, a lot younger than ever. But the multitude of numbers, the patients that are claiming that they're being diagnosed with that, and the bottom line is this. Imagine living at 50 years old, having Alzheimer's where you can't even remember who you are, where you are, the people in your life at 50 years old. And that's what's happening out there. And I think that there's a disconnection in which people get so emotional, distraught, they disconnect for themselves, but they're also not properly nourishing the brain to be able to regenerate properly and have all those wonderful things that we're going to need as we get older. And then I talk about meditation and the importance of that, and I give you another thought of the day, self-healing thought. And then the last 7 days, I want to talk a little bit about your journey. Now you've gone from the physical to the emotional, and then I start introducing some of the spiritual situations, like looking at the blessings in your life, paying attention to the things that really matter, and not always looking at the things that are impacting you but are negative. Also paying attention to the relationships that you have in your life. Are there healthy relationships, or are they toxic? Are people bringing you down? Are they depressing you? Do you live with a partner that you can't stand but you feel trapped? What are some of those things, and what can you do about it to either change yourself or change the situation and how you're managing that? And then ways that you can nourish your spirit, And this is where I love the fact that I encourage you to go out into nature, take walks and look at the leaves and the ocean and the mountains, and realize that we are surrounded by something so amazing and powerful, and we can tap into that energy that will make us then again more powerful and healthier as we get older. So it's a 21-day program that is easy to follow. It tells you pretty much a menu of what you can eat every day, what exercises you should be applying, what you should be doing emotionally and spiritually. And the reason that this is getting a lot of attention is because most programs just focus on the physical. What can I need to eat? How much should I work out? And then they stop there. And I'm taking you beyond that because I want to give a greater meaning to the reasons why you're doing this, and not just what to do, but why you're doing it. And I think that's why the readers are really enjoying that, because I'm really pleased with so many of the comments that we're getting from that.
A whole approach. That's a beautiful way to finish up. Definitely a whole approach, and that's the reason I liked it too. It wasn't just one-sided. It approaches everything that we deal with, and it's an amazing book. And so, as I close the Uvisualeyes show today, I invite you to visit Dr. Mancini's website, drfab.net, or powerofselfhealingbook.com. And you can order Dr. Fabrizio Mancini's book, The Power of Self-Healing, from his site. I'm sure as just about everywhere else, probably Hay House.
Well,
and
what's interesting, we just got a message yesterday that it's already translated in English and Spanish, but 5 different languages just translated. So it'll be in Italian, French, German,
awesome.
The next couple of weeks. And then I'm sure that other countries will come and other languages will come. But
sure.
You can buy them online, Amazon.com, everywhere. It doesn't matter where they sell books, you'll find it. But the one wish I have is read it with an open mind, read it with an open heart, and most importantly, just do one thing or 2 things that you feel you resonate with, and begin there. If you can follow the 21 days, great. The results are amazing. People tell me they're losing weight, they're feeling more energy, they're feeling sexier, they're happier, they're more peaceful.
Awesome. We're running out of time. Dr. Mancini, your expertise and passion for healing comes across brilliantly. Thank you so much for joining us today. and sharing your valuable book. My husband and I are going to start your program next week, and we'll keep track of that on Facebook for everyone who wants to know how we're doing. So thank you again, and have a pleasant day, Dr. Mancini.
Thank you, Michelle, and thanks for the opportunity.
Also, visit my website, themichellcraft.com, where you can learn more on creating the life you prefer, using the tools to provide custom-personalized visualized videos that I design and produce, starring you. Thank you for listening. This has been your life transformation coach and host of the Uvisualeyes show, Michelle Craft.